There are four horses in front of you. You don't know why, but one of them pulls your attention before you even think about it. Not the prettiest one, not the one that makes logical sense, just the one that feels right in a way you can't explain. Some people stare at all four for minutes, analyzing colors and symbolism, trying to pick the correct answer. Others glance once and just know. Why does this happen? And why does your choice reveal something about your psychology that years of self-reflection might miss? Carl Jung believed symbols speak directly to the unconscious, before logic, before language, before you have time to justify yourself. The horse you're drawn to isn't random. It reflects a psychological force currently shaping your life, whether you realize it or not. And the one you avoid? That might be the part of yourself you've been suppressing for years. So what's really happening in your brain when you make this kind of instant, gut-level choice? You're operating through two completely different cognitive systems. The first is your analytical mind, slow, deliberate, rational. It's the part that weighs options, considers consequences, and tries to make logical sense of things. The second is your intuitive mind, fast, automatic, emotional. It makes decisions in milliseconds based on pattern recognition, past experiences, and emotional associations. Research in cognitive psychology shows that when you're faced with ambiguous or symbolic choices, things that don't have clear right or wrong answers, your intuitive system dominates. You're not choosing based on logic. You're choosing based on what resonates emotionally at an unconscious level. Think about moments in your life when you met someone and instantly felt drawn to them or repelled by them, and you couldn't explain why. That's your unconscious doing rapid-fire processing of thousands of microsignals: body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, energy. Your conscious mind hasn't caught up yet, but your unconscious has already run the data and delivered a verdict. The same mechanism is at work when you look at symbolic images. Your brain is scanning for matches between the symbol and your internal psychological landscape. The horse that grabs your attention is the one that lights up the most neural pathways connected to your current emotional state, unmet needs, or buried desires. Psychologists call this implicit association. From the moment you were born, your brain has been building a massive, intricate database of connections between images, emotions, memories, and meanings. When you encounter a symbol, your brain instantly cross-references it with everything you've ever felt, learned, or experienced. The result is a feeling: attraction, aversion, curiosity, discomfort, that arrives before you can articulate why. Now let's explore what each choice might reveal, not as fixed labels, but as psychological patterns that tend to emerge. If you chose the first horse, you're likely connecting with raw energy and unfiltered emotion. This suggests you're someone who experiences life intensely. Your feelings aren't subtle. They're vivid, immediate, powerful. You might struggle with containing or moderating your reactions because your emotional system runs hot. Research shows that people drawn to symbols of pure energy often have what's called high emotional reactivity. They feel things quickly and deeply. This isn't a flaw. It means your nervous system is highly sensitive to stimuli, which can make you incredibly passionate, creative, and alive. But it can also mean you get overwhelmed easily, burn out faster, or react impulsively when triggered. Your challenge isn't to suppress this intensity. It's to learn how to channel it productively. Think of it like having a high-performance engine. It's powerful, but it requires skillful handling. If you chose the second horse, you're drawn to stillness and depth. This suggests you process life internally rather than externally. You're likely someone who needs time alone to think, reflect, and recharge. You don't share everything you feel, not because you're withholding, but because your inner world is private and complex. Research on introversion and emotional processing shows that people who gravitate towards symbols of calm and introspection often have rich interior lives. They observe more than they speak. They notice what others miss, subtle shifts in mood, unspoken tensions, emotional undercurrents. Your strength is depth. Your challenge is isolation. Because you hold so much inside, others may not realize how much you're processing or how deeply you feel. Over time, unexpressed emotions can accumulate, leading to a sense of heaviness or disconnection, even when everything looks fine on the surface. Your growth isn't about becoming louder. It's about selectively sharing your inner world with people who've earned your trust. If you chose the third horse, you're oriented toward movement and transformation. This suggests you're someone who needs change to feel alive. Staying in the same place, physically, emotionally, or psychologically, makes you restless. You're not unstable, you're adaptive. Research on personality traits shows that people drawn to symbols of freedom and motion often score high on what's called openness to experience. They're curious, imaginative, and willing to take risks in pursuit of growth. You've probably changed jobs, cities, relationships, or identities more than once, not because you're flaky, but because you outgrow containers that no longer fit. Your strength is flexibility. Your challenge is commitment. Constant movement can sometimes be a way of avoiding discomfort or unresolved issues. Ask yourself, are you moving towards something you want or away from something you fear? Your psyche isn't asking you to stop evolving. It's asking you to evolve with intention rather than avoidance. If you chose the fourth horse, you're engaging with the shadow, the hidden, denied, or suppressed parts of yourself. This suggests you're someone who carries qualities, desires, or emotions that you've learned to hide. Maybe you're more ambitious than you let on. Maybe you're angrier than you show. Maybe you're more sensitive, more dominant, more creative, or more rebellious than is socially acceptable in your environment. Jung believed the shadow contains not just negative traits, but also positive ones that were too threatening to express. People drawn to symbols of darkness or mystery often have immense, untapped potential. They're holding back strength, voice, or authenticity because at some point they learned it wasn't safe to fully show up. Your challenge is integration. The shadow doesn't go away when you ignore it. It leaks out through passive aggression, self-sabotage, or projection onto others. Your growth comes from naming what you've been hiding and deciding, consciously, what deserves expression and what deserves release. Here's the critical insight. Your choice isn't a permanent diagnosis. It's a snapshot of where your psychological energy is concentrated right now. If you had taken this same exercise 6 months ago, you might have chosen a completely different horse. If you take it again 6 months from now, your choice could shift yet again. Because you're not a static personality, you're a dynamic system, constantly adapting to changing circumstances, pressures, and growth phases. Your unconscious responds to what you need in this moment, not what you'll need forever. And what about the horse you actively avoided? The one you looked at and immediately felt resistance toward? That rejection is just as revealing. Often we push away symbols that represent disowned parts of ourselves, qualities we've been taught to devalue. If you avoided the first horse, maybe you've learned that intensity is overwhelming or destructive. If you avoided the second horse, maybe you've internalized that stillness equals weakness or passivity. If you avoided the third horse, maybe you've been conditioned to believe that change is reckless. If you avoided the fourth horse, maybe you've been told your complexity is too much. The beauty of exercises like this is that they bypass your defenses. You can't intellectualize your way into the right answer. You can only reveal what's already operating beneath the surface. The horse you chose is offering you information, Not about who you are forever, but about what your psyche is processing right now. And once you can see it, you can work with it consciously.